funny enough, on social media, I think it was yesterday, I saw that it's toxic saying fake it till you make it.
Oh. Okay.
And, once I already got into the comments, it's a mental health issue to say that you pretend like you're okay. That's the faking it part till you eventually become okay.
Hey, Bulelani Balabala here. Welcome to the Small Business Podcast. We bring you weekly information, practical skills, and mentorship from industry professionals. This podcast is powered by T, an initiative that has directly impacted over 50,000 plus small businesses nationwide. This podcast is for small business owners who want to start, run, and grow their business. Follow us on all our social media platforms. #JoinUs4T. Every Wednesday is a new podcast. Thank you for joining us for yet again another small business podcast. We're excited, man. I mean, we've moved into March. The new fiscal for a lot of business owners, I think, including myself. I mean, March has kicked off. I guess a lot of us are starting our first quarters, and I think everyone in the country, or I guess around the world, who's sort of using the normal calendar, is sort of closing off the first quarter of the year. And I really just hope that you're gonna, you've strategized, you planned, and you're really just gonna throw everything that it's gonna take into the new year, making 2022 going to 2023 a great fiscal for the growth of your business from a revenue and a growth perspective. But today we've got an amazing lady in studio with us, a lady I look up to, I appreciate. We've done a lot of amazing things together, and she's a mover and shaker. She's a mover and shaker within her fraternity in industry, and a definite force to be reckoned with. The only time I'm able to find her is when I message her through a PA. That's exactly how busy she is. But just by brief opener and introduction, she goes by the name Sibabalwe. I call her Sibabalwe Sesmani, who is the group CEO of Unorthodox Group, and which is a public relations company that she started in 2014 and has grown. I think you've definitely grown beyond PR. They do media and a holistic value chain within the media and the PR marketing space. And they specialize in front of oh my goodness, I'm not going to read this bio, but I've decided one thing actually. Because and by the way, she's got an extensive and very, very deep and broad bio, and I don't want to do her an injustice, right? Because you are such a powerhouse, and I think I've looked at the work that you've done over the years. I think when we met, you were doing work with Paul and them, and I think what you were able to achieve then was wow. And I think from the conversations that we've had, you've been able to do amazing stuff. Your network is broad, extensive, and amazing. And I sort of want to extrapolate in this conversation selfishly how your mind works, how you view business, how you get to the rooms that you get into, how you've been able to manage that in such a very short space of time. I mean, looking at your age, you're very, very young, amazing lady. But without messing it up, good afternoon, good day, good morning. How are you?
Jeez, what an intro. I'm hiring you. Nice to you, John. Oh, great. Thanks, Bulelani. I'm happy to sit down with you and be on this podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Siba, thank you so much for making time for us, man. I think just by way of introduction, Siba, where are you from?
Jeez. I am from East London, specifically Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape, for people who don't know where that is. I went to high school there, went to UJ, did a BCom in Economics and Econometrics, and then I somehow find myself in business.
How'd you move from how'd you move from that to the industry you're in now?
Well, I got my first job when I was still in varsity, when I was in third year. It was a 9-month contract, actually, with a tobacco company. I won't say the name because that'll be seen as advertising. And there, we were doing something called informal marketing, where basically we were information gathering. So because of the nature of the tobacco industry, you're not allowed to advertise. So they would send people like us to events just to see what people are smoking, what their habits are, and we put together the reports. So I think I really enjoyed discovering how people's minds work, their brains, their behavior, and that's sort sort of planted the seed of what I do. After that, I then went on, I was there for 9 months. I went to work for a sales and marketing company for 3 months. I went to work for another company for a month, and then I worked for another company for 2 weeks.
In case you're trying to hire her, she's unhireable, which is why entrepreneurship.
Bulelani. So while I was at that other company for 2 weeks, I actually got my first client. It was at my then boss's office space. The building that they were renting from, one of the MDs happened to be there. And we were having a chat on the balcony. It was such a beautiful working space. And I was just asking him, why don't more entrepreneurs know about it? And he said, well, he doesn't know how to get it out there. It was a Friday afternoon, I remember. And I said, maybe I can help. And he's like, put together a proposal. Let's meet on Monday. So this is Friday. Monday, 2 hours before the meeting, I have nothing planned, no proposal. I don't even know how to write a proposal, right? Because I've been straight from school, employed in multiple jobs as well. I didn't have to be on that proposal level. So Googled proposal template, put in what I could. I've always been very good with words. And then that's it. The guy was just like, okay, draft an SLA. It's like, okay, sure, I can do that. Straight after the meeting, I was like, Google, what is an SLA? And it was just from there, it was referral basis. And yeah, that's led to where we are right now.
Oh, wow. But I mean, how sort of was that sort of transitioning from, I guess, being an intern, having a job, to now running your own business?
I think the advantage and disadvantage is the fact that I hadn't been working for long. So I didn't get like too comfortable to a point where I wasn't flexible enough to learn quickly. I was also very young, so a lot of like debt and financial responsibilities, I just threw caution to the wind because I didn't have a lot of those as well. I would say disadvantage though, because I've never been in a corporate workspace for that long. So I had to like literally learn on the go. But for me, that transition was very hard, because it's not just about the work. It's also about a lot of the softer skills that you have to learn while getting into business, because corporate business, two totally different things. It wasn't seamless, but I think it was okay. And because I was so young, I was able to adjust very quickly and be very adaptive, because the business you need to be.
Yeah, and then I mean, I think for me, so one of the many things rather that I pick up from you is, I think your confidence. And I think if you're listening to those podcasts, that's one thing that you're going to pick up across the board. If you follow her work, something, where do you get that from? And I ask this from the vantage point, and I've always asked this question to ladies that I have on the podcast, right? To sort of unearth the amazing ladies that are out there, women that are out there, so that they claim their thrones, they claim their place in society, in the economic scale. Where does all of this confidence come from?
Sure, Bulelani. I don't know. It's actually a very tough question, hey? And I'm also glad that you mentioned the female aspect of it. Because, I mean, with women, with the barriers that we face, and then on top of that, being a black woman, you almost have a mental battle every single day. And I'm actually very happy that mental health issues are more discussed more openly, because that's literally what you do. You puff up your chest every time you go into a meeting, and you act as confident as you can, just so that you fool other people, and you sort of fool yourself as well till it comes and it happens. Funny enough, on social media, I think it was yesterday, I saw that it's toxic saying fake it till you make it.
Oh, okay.
And once I already got into the comments, it's a mental health issue to say that you pretend like you're okay. That's the faking it part, till you eventually become okay, which I thought was just so intriguing. But I think I did hold on to that for the longest time. The fake it till you make it might not necessarily be the healthiest, but when you're in front of people, and the people that you're trying to get business with, and they need to be confident in your ability, you sort of fake it. And then when you go back to your team, or when you are alone or with your friends, I think you can then collapse and be like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I do know that I've got a goal and I'm going to achieve it. So it's really not that easy being confident, especially with gender pay gaps, gender inequality, and then being a woman in business where you're constantly being knocked down almost every day. It's not easy, but it's just one of those things that you have to tell yourself every single day. I think no matter how long you've been in business for.
I mean, you've been in business now, what, 8 years?
Sure, it's going to be 8 years in October.
Whew. Now, I sort of want to, I think I sort of want to, on the back of what you've just mentioned now, right? I sort of want to fast forward to, I mean, in 2017, you were nominated by, the Ghanaian-based Africa Youth Awards for Personality of the Year, up against nominees in Tanzania, Ghana, Cameroon, and other parts of Africa. Now, on the back of this question, how did this moment feel for you? Being, this amazing young lady from Africa, from South Africa, most importantly, not Africa, but also from Mdantsane. And then how do you constantly deal with imposter syndrome, right? Do you even have that, or does your confidence just over-peak?
It's so funny. I will remember the day I got that email. I was having such a low moment. I was sitting in a specific hotel in a lobby. I was working. I think I was waiting for a coffee meeting. And then this email came through that, well done, you've been nominated, blah, blah. Then when I looked who else was there, I saw Cameroon, Tanzania. And funny enough, when we started our company, I said that we wanted to be a pan-African PR company. We don't just want to do work in South Africa. I want to do work outside SA and have clients outside SA, but still within the continent. So for me, it was one of those things that I'm going the right direction. I didn't win it, which is perfectly fine. But for me, that recognition meant so much. I've always thought that people say just the nomination is enough, we're losers. But I now understand because it pushed me from that day. I was just like, someone is always watching you, because for you to get nominated, it means that someone was just like, this person is doing something. So I think that it changed and it shifted so much of my perspective and my thinking to say everything that I do, I need to have a spirit of excellence, because you never know who's watching. But also I owe that to myself to always give the highest quality of work that I possibly can. So, I mean, that was great. Imposter syndrome, I still have it because we're always evolving as people, right? And you're always trying out new things. So when entering into a new territory, you're always like, I don't know if I can make it. But you do your absolute best to make sure that you actually do make it. But yeah, imposter syndrome, I still struggle with that quite a bit.
And I think one of the things, I mean, I know for a fact about you is that, sure, if I had to steal your phone, you're right, and go to the contact lists, right, your network is heavy. And one of the biggest challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs have is, how do I build this network, right? What is the importance of building this network? How do you go about doing that? Because I think I've seen you operate. I won't even call it maneuvering. Maneuvering is, I've seen you operate. You operate. It's planned, it's clear, it's decisive. You know how to engage, you know who to engage, you know how to engage about, and you know how to follow up. How do you sort of build that in, and how do you enter into new spaces?
So initially, when we started the PR company, I mean, I even told my first client, I was like, I had a business partner back then on the PR side. I said to our first client, like, before you sign this SLA that I Googled, okay, I didn't tell him that I Googled. Before you sign this SLA, please know that I have no media contacts whatsoever. Yes, I did say this is what we can achieve. I don't have media contacts, but I do know that I can do this and it's possible. So from then onwards, they still signed the SLA. I was shocked. God's grace till this day. And then we started stalking people. So we would find out where certain producers are, and we would go to those events. This is obviously pre-COVID. We would literally show up to those events. We didn't even have that much money, but we knew that, okay, if we get there, I know that I can talk to this person. So I think between myself and my partner, we had different skill sets, which helped us so much. And I fed off her and she fed off me. So I know that my people skills have always been on point. I'm not experienced in PR, but if I can sit down with you and talk to you, and I will definitely convince you to do what you want me to do, what I want you to do, or we'll reach a compromise. So I thought, so initially it was literally just about that, making sure we're at the right places. We attended quite a lot of events as well because that was cool. But then over time it got tiring, and then we thought, let's streamline certain events. So we looked at what we needed in our business and where we wanted to go. And then we streamlined events depending on, would we find that person who can either meet our need now or the direction that we want to go, start those conversations as well. But the most important thing for us is that we never want to meet people for the sake of meeting people. We always want to meet people because we think that they've got a solution to our problem, and we think that they've got a problem of which we have a solution for. So I think that's also the bulk of networking, because I like people that get straight to the point. I've always just conditioned myself in that sense as well. If I say I want to meet Bulelani, it's because I want to meet Bulelani about X, Y, and Z. And he might possibly need X, Y, and Z from me, so that he brings value to the table and I also bring value to the table. That's how you really strengthen those networks, and people keep on coming back. But the most important thing is that when you go to someone, you know exactly what it is that you want, and also see how much value you can add. And I think, you can have long-term networks, and they trust in you and they believe in you, because the real currency is not money, it's people. And they introduce you to other people and other people and other people. And funny enough, that's how our business has lasted this long. We only started pitching last year. We've never pitched ever since. So that was a good 6 years of not pitching and being referred to. And we only started pitching last year. I think we did 2 pitches. And this year, I think, there's like 2 more that's planned. But it's literally that, based on our networks and our referrals.
Sure. And I mean, and I must say, I mean, that's, wow. You dynamite, right?
Thank you.
But now just tell me, right, how did you navigate COVID-19? I mean, you sort of talk about, and I think I love the perspective on faking it till you make it, right? Because I think I would have been one of the people who would have advocated. I've actually said that at talks and stuff like that. But I think now, I guess the unlocking the mental health conversation opens up layers and layers of impact in how we engage. But how did you navigate, and how did you sort of keep your own personal mental health sort of in check or in balance, if ever possible?
Sure. Funny enough, I think I've only had a breather late last year to actually check in on myself and see how I am. I think ever since we started the company in 2014 October, I've never had those check-ins, right? And also, to a certain point, as an entrepreneur who is young and black and female, that's a luxury. To sit down and check. I've had to schedule crying sessions in between meetings or say I need to reserve what happened at 9 a.m. to at 5 p.m. afterwards. I can't cry right now. I need to keep those tears, okay? Make sure that after 6 when I'm done. Well, at that time, we used to leave the office at 1. 1 a.m. I could have a crying session before I go to bed. But I can't cry too much because I can't wake up with puffy eyes because I've got meetings. So mental health-wise, I'd say I'm the worst person to ask about that. But I think just the one thing that's pulled me through is my spirituality, right? So I believe in God. I pray to God. And there are just certain things that have happened in my life where I'm just like, this was not me. Okay, this is God. Yeah, this is God and my ancestors looking after me. So it really is important to be able to check in with yourself. But if we're realistic, entrepreneurs don't have that time. It's a luxury, because at a time, especially at the beginning, you're wearing 15 hats at once. You cannot afford a mental breakdown. You take those feelings, you store them away, and you do what needs to be done.
So I think one thing I never knew about you, right? I think you're very good at keeping stuff away from me. One thing I never knew is that, I mean, you hosted a show. You hosted a show, a 2-hour show on Maboneng Radio called Open Wednesdays. And I think how I want to phrase this question is, how do you sort of evolve between the different things, right? Because, and I ask this from a point of the few entrepreneurs I sort of engage with, right? They sort of feel like, I'm trying this and I'm trying that and I'm trying this. I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm a scatterbrain. Things are not aligning and things are not as working as quick as they should. And I think my rebuttal to that is you're finding your feet. And part of doing all these things is finding your feet.
Yeah.
How have you navigated the different growth levels of not even your business, but just you?
I think, I think I'll focus on business. I think with us doing different things over the years, and we've done quite a bit, it's been anchored to what we strongly believe in and just the industry that we operate in. So the whole idea of Open Wednesdays came about. Our first client, their first office space was called Open Collaborative City Workspaces. They're now called something else. So that's actually a show that we made for them. They were so passionate about entrepreneurship. So we found a radio station that was based within the vicinity that they were operating in. And we listened to them, we looked through the slots, and we realized that there's nothing for entrepreneurs. When basically, Maboneng at the time, years ago, was built around entrepreneurship and how to make workspaces more flexible. So we thought this is a great fit for our client. Why don't we do it? So we produced it, and then our client, because he was also very comfortable with doing interviews, he was then the presenter. So I think that's how it all started. So I think with trying new things, we always try to see how does it come back. So that foundation is so important to build. So having your pillars, whether it's 4 pillars or 3 pillars, having those things that anchor you. And in whatever it is that you want to try out or do, make sure that it's within those pillars. So for me as an individual, one of the things I feel strongly about is GBV, women empowerment as well. So you'll see that with some of our clients that we have, it actually anchors back to that. And I know that it's my personal thing, not necessarily a company. But because I obviously own the company, then I will anchor those things back. So I think it's just also important to not be all over the place, but also diversify as much as you can. Is that be able to bring it in and also create some sort of, I forgot the word now, but yeah, some sort of ecosystem. Yeah. There we go.
Sure. Well, I'm actually a smart guy. A smart guy after all. But now, what was the lowest moment for you in business? Or moments? Because I've had moments.
I'm glad you said moments because I was like, okay, where do I go? Jeez. It was actually a recent one. I think it happened last year. So, okay, we ventured into a certain industry last year. I won't say because I've got directors there. And someone blatantly said to my face that they're not going to deal with me on the basis that I'm not a man. So I've had all of these experiences, I've had condescending behaviors, but that for me broke me so much. Number one, because I was entering into a new industry that I was already so anxious about. But number two, you're not even saying it behind my back. You're not putting it in a subtle way. You are saying to me that you're not going to communicate with me on the basis that I am not a man. So I think that was a low moment for me. Another low moment was when my business partner on the PR side, now because the two entities are different, on the PR side, we decided to part ways. So with that, I had to learn her skills very quickly because I was good at bringing in the business, but she was so efficient when it came to execution, which is still not my favorite thing, but I've had to learn, right, in order to be in business. So that was quite low because I lost a friend, but then I also lost a very efficient, good business partner, which was also another life skill. Just because someone's your friend doesn't mean that you guys should go into business together. So it's just also those lessons that you learn along the way, and compatibility and just seeing, do you guys have a vision, a mutual beneficial, a mutual vision? Can you both see exactly where it is that you're going, and do you want to go towards the right direction? And what other moments? It's just that I've changed my whole perspective on life. Is that
but now, just on the back of that second moment, right? Maybe just unpack this for us, right? A lot of us actually, when we start business, and I know when I started a business, I thought maybe I need business partners, maybe I need to get a partners. And let's say I actually do search out for a business partner. What are some of the things that I need to look out for, if ever I need to?
Sure. Yeah.
In your view.
So I went through a similar thing where after I broke up with my business partner, I still had the imposter syndrome that I couldn't who am I to run a company, right? Got another business partner that didn't work after a couple of months as well, until I decided that, hey, maybe I need to do this on my own. But, in thinking after a couple of years to say, right now, if I had a business partner, it would be not just about the capital that they would bring in, because I would have to sell my shares, but it's also the sustainability of, again, touching on what we were talking about earlier, their networks. What networks do they have that I don't have? What networks do they have that I could possibly never reach out to? What are they actually bringing to the table? I would actually even consider a business partner who's not bringing in money, but if I see that the value of their network, and they're not lying when they say that they have that network, they can access those people, I'd sell a portion just based on the value of their network. So I think a shared vision, what's important is for you to also be clear about the roles that you play. Are you coming in, Bulelani, into my company and saying that, Siba, I just do introductions and I'm gone? We need to be clear from the beginning about that. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. And that's it. So it's very important just to outline from the beginning. And lately I've been doing a governance course, and it's been teaching me quite a bit about, your memorandums of incorporation. And you can stipulate all of those things in your company policies. So also you get to learn so much about your company as well. But there's so many tools that we're not implementing that are there for us as entrepreneurs as well. But it's really just about, in black and white, what are your responsibilities? What are mine? And let's not step on each other's toes. And we should get along to a certain extent. We don't have to be friends, but let's be cordial. Let's get along. Let's respect each other. And let's stick to our areas of focus that we have agreed upon on paper and signed.
Now, how then did you then navigate, I guess, the first low moment, right? And how have you been navigating that? Because I guess that's one of the challenges that a lot of women go through, right? You go in, you're pitching for business, you are only looked at as a piece of meat or as a sex object or as someone, I've spoken to so many women where you have a woman coming into a meeting and then she's given money instead of the business that she's looking for, right? Is there even a way of navigating that, right? Or do we as men just need to pucker up instead of getting women to consistently adjust their posture about how they do business and the sort?
Sure. Well, it's that's actually something I've been grappling with for quite a while. That how do you find that fine line, or who needs to change in a situation? I mean, for short term, I would have to look at myself as a woman and say, okay, maybe I'm not taking dinner meetings. Maybe I'm only taking meetings at offices. I'm not meeting you at a restaurant or coffee shop, which also becomes very hard, especially now with COVID, right? Because a lot of people let go of their offices. So it's coffee shops, it's dinners and whatnot. But then interestingly enough, I was out for dinner, I think 2 weeks ago, and it was a social call. But from that, there was then a follow-up meeting. So me depriving myself and saying that I'm not going to go to dinner meetings with the Bulelani, I'm also, because that's how people do business. And actually people want to be social with you first, in some instances, before they can give you business. Or they need to say, oh, Bulelani, I know so-and-so. So they need to be familiar with you within that circle before they can then trust and say, okay, Siba, we can then give you our business because you're part of our circle. Not necessarily saying that it's right, but these are the realities of the situations that we face. So, I mean, yeah, as a woman, it happens all the time. But you need to be stern. You need to put your foot down. But men need to do better. Men need to do so much better. Because we've got a huge GBV issue right now. And a portion of it is dependence, because women are dependent on men. We don't have economic opportunities. So by you giving Usiba money instead of a contract where she can sustain herself, you're creating dependence already and starting that whole cycle. So it's a situation where both parties have to come into play. The guys need to call themselves out. And okay, I don't know what else we can do, because there's so much that we need to do as well, and which is so unfair, but we need to shut things down, because also we tend to sweep things under the carpet. We're like, no, I hear Bulelani's advances. Let me just ignore him. Hopefully you'll say no. But we actually need to say, Bulelani, what you're doing is wrong. I'm here for business. I do not appreciate that comment. Getting back to why we are here and then carrying on. We need to be more vocal. We don't have a choice.
And I mean, you sort of touched on what kept you going during COVID. Is that also what inspires you? Right? Prayer, staying. What inspires you? What does do you also, I think, what inspires you, and do you have a routine that keeps you in the game? What do you believe
in? Sure. What inspires me? So when I was younger, I wanted to be a dancer. I actually wanted to be a ballerina. I wanted to be a professional dancer. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't see a black woman on TV who was a dancer, aside from the movies now, because I knew that those people were fake. Like, I never saw a black female role model who was a dancer. So I was just like, there's no money in this. From a young age, I've always loved money. So my my first business, my parents will tell you all about it. I was selling popcorn in primary school. So always be an entrepreneur. But it was just that, okay, there's no money in this because I'm not seeing black women doing it. Therefore, I need to find something else. Then, you do the normal accounting, business, whatever. You're not really thrown into entrepreneurship. Well, when I was growing up anyway and at school. But then when I started with this entrepreneurship and flirted with the idea of owning my own business, I was very overwhelmed. But then for me, what's kept me going is that I want a little girl, Osem Tanzani, to be like, oh, there's Siba, dad, teacher, mom was an admin clerk, nothing really special, not a trust fund baby. But if she can do it, I can also do it. So that keeps me motivated from it, because little black girls from the township, they also need to see someone that looks like them. I think it's so important to be able to point out similar background. She looks like me, therefore I can do it too if she can. So that sort of keeps me going. Routine-wise, with COVID, I'm still trying to navigate what's best. But I must say that when it comes to working hours, I've actually reduced I would say that's the only thing I'll change in my routine, because as entrepreneurs, we need to work all these long hours, but there comes a certain point where you need to take care of yourself, and you can't work like a crazy person all the time. So I think that's like the only thing I've changed in my routine, is reduce work, or maybe reduce my interaction with external work people, but then also keep my after hours work a bit minimal and manageable.
Now, just let me in on this, right? I mean, you are in the PR and media fraternity. In your perspective, do you feel like, do you think it's transformed, and especially for Black women, and have more opportunities opened up for Black female-run firms?
Bulelani, I don't have a filter, and you must ask me this question on a platform that is correct, that is public, but I'm glad we're there. I'm sure it's an interesting one. It hasn't really transformed. You find that they are the same big corporates going with the same PR agencies for years. I mean, the contracts will expire and they'll renew the contract. Should they decide to go with another PR agency that's maybe Black and female owned, the retainers are less. Yeah, I still do feel as though the white PR firms get the biggest of clients, and then the smaller firms sort of scramble with what's left. Also, an issue is that we are also scared to price what we actually deserve, because we don't want to price too high, because there's also that thing that they're going to go and find someone else. So, when you're Black and in business, you're sort of fighting for crumbs. And whatever crumb you can latch onto, you take. We don't see the value maybe in our work to our fullest potential. And we actually don't see how great we are. So it is very much an issue. It is. I won't lie to you. I've seen some PR firms that are huge servicing clients, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? The quality of work is subpar. There's no research, nothing's been done, and I know fully well that we could do a better job. And they are probably getting paid. Their contracts will be renewed. They'll be good. They're actually very complacent. They have a one-size-fits-all approach as well to their clients. They're not unique to their clients' individual needs. So, I mean, in business in general, I wouldn't even say in PR, but I guess because I'm in PR, we're speaking about that. There's a lot that can be done transformation-wise. There's really a lot.
Yeah. Now, I know that you're also part of Breaking Down Borders. Just tell us a bit about that, and why would you back an initiative? I mean, it's an NPO, it's an NGO,
yes.
Breaking Down Borders.
So, haven't been doing much work with them lately. I think, we've just been going through just a lot of changes. But what I really loved about Breaking Down Borders is that initially, remember when I said that we had always had a vision to be a Pan-African.
Yeah.
So with us, it was just a beautiful relationship. And the fact that, I'm still youth and they advocate for youth. I thought that was amazing. And the fact that they can bring youth from different parts of the African continent to conference for like a full week. I mean, the exchange of knowledge between those people are just, it's so amazing. You get to learn about people's culture, how people do business in African countries. And actually from doing that, we've had established partnerships in 2 African countries. So going back to it, how I network again, associate myself with the fundamentals that we built our company on, because it was such an amazing networking platform. And because the people that you're speaking to and you continue speaking to, there's always that reference that we met at a platform that's supposed to be really good for the youth on the continent, and therefore there's a lot that can be done and a lot of good work that can come from that. So yeah, BDP is one of the few. I don't even know if there's another youth conferencing platform.
None that I know of. Yeah.
So I mean, the work that they do is absolutely amazing.
Now, what is the one lesson that you learned that changed your entrepreneurial journey? I think there's a lot, but which one stands out for you? Is it about tax? Is it finance? Is it leadership? I know I'm a terrible manager, so
I'm brushing up on my leadership skills. I think I would say perspective, not just in business, but just in all areas of my life is perspective. How you view things is so important. Hey, we can both, I'll make a corny example. We can see that glass as you see it half empty. Okay, it's not half. I see it half full, you see it half empty. But that's just really what life is, perspective. It's like in the middle of the pandemic, well, when the pandemic was actually starting, had like a breakdown for 2 weeks. I couldn't function because I'm a control freak and now the world's been turned literally upside down. But my perspective on what happened, and especially in relation to my work, is that in the midst of chaos, you can always find solutions. This is when people need solutions because we always need to know what's coming. So I think the biggest thing for me is perspective. How is your perspective? And that goes into, what are you feeding your brain? What are you looking at? What are you listening to? What are you allowing into your mind, body, and soul in order for you to have a good enough perspective in order to go through life? Because life is hard.
Yeah.
But with the right kind of perspective, it can help you navigate and you can achieve the goals that you want to achieve.
And I mean, in 2020 October, you launched Unorthodox Sports successfully. And I mean, I know because I'm a big fan, I think under the management wing of the sport, you've got Makazole Mapimpi, but I love your work. Tell us a bit about that. Why the now venture into sport?
So in May, still beginning of the pandemic, in May, someone that I went to high school with, which is also one of my directors in Unorthodox Sport, Basanzinde, he will kill me if I don't give him a shout out. I went to high school with him and he reached out to me on Instagram. I think we hadn't spoken in years. He reaches out to me. He sends me a DM. He's like, hi, I'm friends with so-and-so guy. I think there's something we can build from his brand. He's currently not being managed. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So we had this virtual meeting because we're all still at home. The two of them based in Durban, I'm in Johannesburg. We have this virtual meeting, sent them through a contract, and we're like, okay, cool, let's work. So he is, at this point, he is a client of Unorthodox PR. And then we work because also one of the things is that I wanted to also see, because it was very new for me. Yes, it's still very much PR. You're still building a brand, but I enjoy watching some sports, but I don't necessarily know and interacting with athletes what that's like. So we built up our we built up our relationship. He's also a very, very, very patient guy as well. We just worked throughout the months. And then, work started coming. We were building this brand that people, yes, know that this is the guy that scored the try at the World Cup. But then now we were actually building a brand. We were attracting so much attention. So we started attracting attention from a bit more athletes. And then I just decided, you know what? I don't want to mix that up with PR. Because on the PR side, I've always wanted it to be companies and corporate. Why don't we establish a new venture? And part of the things that I know that he's also very passionate about is business. So I then asked him, I was like, listen, why don't we establish a venture? It's still going to fall under Unorthodox Group. We established this venture. I am the director. He is also the director because it's also a good succession plan. He's not going to play rugby for forever. And then also Bas, our other director, we get on board, we start this company. So soon after we started that company, we then signed on Lukanyo another World Cup winning, amazing athlete.
Yeah.
We signed him on as well. So we've been working with those two clients for now. So with that, it's not too different from PR. It's just that it has to focus on individuals. But we do work with a lot of brands. But then we have also managed to form an ecosystem where our PR clients also now feed into sport, because they might want some of our clients in sport, to represent them. And then we might also just spot a few opportunities with the clients that come on the sports side to then feed into PR. So then it goes back to that ecosystem that do try different things, but then see how everything can all work together. So you don't feel overwhelmed, or you don't feel like you're doing things in isolation. So that gelled perfectly. I think I really enjoyed that. I really do enjoy the challenge as well. It's still a very male-dominated industry behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But there's so much room for growth, and there's so much opportunity that we're seeing, and we just can't wait for it to grow. We've got some amazing things lined up for this year. So we just can't wait to tell people about that. And the growth of it has just been so amazing in such a short space of time financially.
And that's, I guess, that's the bottom line that matters in business, right? Mm-hmm. Sales and everything else follows suit. But now, Siba, just what are your highest moments in business? some of your highest moments? I know that, being nominated was one of them.
I think, geez, man, highest moments. I think self-actualization is the biggest thing for me. I think realizing that, in also trying to get over that imposter syndrome, realizing that I'm actually a valuable asset to whoever it is that I work with and in the room that I'm in. I think it takes a lot of people to realize that they're a valuable asset. And the moment you realize that you're a valuable asset in a specific room, that's when other people start seeing that. That's actually when you break barriers and start doing so much better than you think you would. So I think for that is there's just been those validating moments to say, no, man, you can actually really do this. One of my other highest moments, I don't want to mention his name, but a certain president of an organization, not company, when he was in the country, reached out to me and he said that he wanted to see me. I was just like, me, little old me, you reached out to me. How do you even have my number? And that's when you realize that you're on track, you're aligned. And then going back to what I was saying, that, people are always watching what you're doing. People are always watching what you're doing. But then, sometimes it's the random DMs that I get from people saying, you're such an inspiration. I was having such a low moment and I saw this and I saw that. I definitely say that those are some of my highest moments because, again, my main motivating factor is for a little girl from Mtanzane or wherever, who can say, she looks like me, she comes from a similar background. Yeah. That means I can do it as well.
Yeah. Now, if you had an opportunity to give advice to the younger you, what advice would it be?
Bill a lot more. Okay, what you're billing is not enough.
Charge
I was
more?
not billing enough at all. Be a bit more confident.
But also, I'm rude, guys. I know you're listening and I'm rude, but I wanna just unpack that just quickly.
Sure.
Second last question. How did you realize you undercharging, and how did you get to charging the right? Because pricing is such a big challenge.
It is.
For a lot
Sure.
of small business owners, right? Charging and sticking to the price.
No, how did I get to that point? I think I compared a lot because pricing, even now, hey, I was actually funny enough, I was thinking about pricing before I got here because I'm always thinking about money and numbers. It's I think comparison, finding another company or an agency the same size as you maybe who does similar work and just getting different quotes. What also helps, then now there's this beautiful relationship between entrepreneurs and people in 9-to-5s, is that if, say, you have friends in a 9-to-5 that can share how much maybe some of the agencies charge as well, and then what's also in that, have those conversations as well. But for me, it was a lot of comparing, a lot of seeing what value we bring to the table, which is quite important. But yeah, I would say comparison, and then just looking at the scope of work. And then also when it comes to pricing, you said, and keeping the price that way. If client comes and they say that their budget is say you are charging 10 Rand, they're like, they can only afford 7 Rand. Then you go back to your deliverables and you minus 3 and you give them 7 Rands worth of deliverables. I think when I learned that, something in me changed to say, I can still accept your 10 Rand. I can still accept your 7 Rand, but I'm going to decrease the scope of work that I'm going to give you so that it matches. Therefore, you don't turn away money. It still comes in because cash is king.
That's.
So,
You. Wow, that's.
I would curtsy.
Then, wow, I'm just stuck on that, right? Because you hit the nail on the head, right? Okay, the second part of advice you'd give to the younger you?
I think just be more confident, trust in your abilities. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm actually in a point in my life now where I'm looking for mentors. So I think having mentors earlier on in life, because they don't just guide you depending on where you feel like you fall short, but mentors actually get you to a certain point where they are now comfortable enough to say, Bulelani, I'm going to make an introduction to this person. This person's going to give you business. And they're going to go to that person and motivate why I think Bulelani deserves your business. And I'll make sure that he doesn't disappoint you. So I think, mentors play such a big role in making sure that a company is liquid if you do have that kind of relationship over time. But then they offer you the insight foresight, because I think I had to learn quite a lot by myself. But had I attached myself to someone older, so for instance, had I attached myself to an older woman, whether she's in corporate or business, but to just say, how do you then navigate those uncomfortable situations with men where they'd rather have sex with you or give you money instead of giving you a job, you know? So I wouldn't have to figure out on my own how to navigate those situations. I'd have an experienced, well-seasoned woman to talk to me about that. And just other things like cash flows and how to structure things and networks, creating a bigger network faster maybe, creating a more sustainable business. So I would say mentorship, being more confident, knowing my value, and just billing. Not me.
Oh man, Siba, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
A rock star, a ball of energy, but also most importantly, just a ball of wisdom. So I mean, if you listen to this podcast, follow her, follow the amazing work that they do at Unorthodox. And yeah, man, thank you so much. I really learned quite a few amazing things. Thank you,
Bulelani.
And yeah, that's it, guys. See you next week. That's it for today. If you like that podcast, show us some love and share it with your network. Once again, follow us on all of our social media platforms, #JoinUsForTea, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shout out to Joe Public for making this possible. Remember, Sisonke Rikaufela and Foster Njengomzegezege.